Hi, welcome to a special edition of Education Matters. All of us that are involved in school districts, whether you're a board member, a school administrator, or even a teacher, know that what happens in the halls of Trenton affects what happens in the classroom. Recently, I had the opportunity to speak with the President of the Senate, Steve Sweeney, and we talked about those issues that are important to us in education, such as park, school funding, the state budget, superintendent salary caps. I think when you get the perspective of the leadership of the Senate, it gives you an idea as to where we might be going as a state. Please keep in mind that the views that are expressed by the Senator are his and his alone. They are not mine or nor the association's, but it does give you an opportunity to listen to the views of that leadership. Welcome to a special edition of Education Matters. I'm here at the State House with the President of the Senate, Steve Sweeney. Welcome, Stephen.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. A lot of people know that you're the President of the Senate, but a lot of people don't know that one of the positions you held was you were a school board member.
It was my very first position. I served on the school board for 1 year before I became a freeholder, and I give anybody that serves on the school board a lot of credit. It's a hard work, but it's worthy. It's very worthy of the work that's put forward. A lot easier than what I did as a county freeholder.
Okay, let's get into some of the issues. It's budget time. Putting the state budget together is never easy. What is the governor's made his proposals. Any thoughts from your perspective on the state budget?
Well, you know, we have to dig into the numbers and look at the revenue projections that are coming forward. Obviously, it'd be easier if our economy grew and we had more revenue, so we could fund our school funding formula that actually really did work. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we basically have flat funded schools for several years now, and it's caused a strain on the local districts level. So we need to look to find more revenue for our school districts, take some of the pressure off the property taxpayers.
One of the things that I know the Democrats have proposed, and the governor usually will probably veto, is a millionaire's tax. Is that still something that you favor?
Yeah, for one reason, we have to take the pressure off, and that's one of the areas of taking pressure off. And this isn't class warfare. What's going on in this, not just the state, but this country right now, is 1% of the country has 50% of the wealth. So every state in this country, there was a report, is struggling because there's so much wealth being gathered up top, mm-hmm. and the middle class just isn't keeping up. And to reallocate or readjust and have them pay their fair share, you know, they're blessed, and I'm very, you know, I wish that people that are wealthy nothing but well. But this millionaire's tax is a true millionaire's tax. The governor was completely disingenuous when he was giving his speeches about come to New Jersey, 400,000. This was not $1 more until you went over $1 million. And since we all are paying more, this is the one group that has paid less since he's been governor. So I think it's a fairness issue, and it takes some of the pressure off.
Now the governor will say, and maybe some of the opposition, that it will hurt the economy. What are your thoughts on that?
Bull. And I could use another word too, but it's complete bull. You know, these are people that we were told are the job creators. That if they're the job creators, why are we 48th in the nation in job creation? Because we haven't taxed them. They're paying less now. Under Chris Christie, they are paying less than they paid under John Corzine. Plus, we did $540 million in business tax cuts. We thought they were the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. Both sides, Republican and Democrat, to support businesses. So when they make the argument that these are the job creators and the world's going to come to an end, I can show you studies that show that people making more than $500,000 actually increased in the past decade, not decreased. And that's when there was a millionaire's tax. So his arguments are completely baseless. And, you know, if we're, you know, I think President Clinton said this at the Democrat National Convention, it's we're better off if we're all in it together rather than you're on your own. And pretty much what the governor is doing is telling the middle class and the working poor they're on their own.
We can't move forward without pension reform. And he studied the commission's report. First of all, is it a crisis from your perspective?
It's a crisis because he's failed to live up to his end of the bargain. The pension reform was very painful and difficult, and no one was happy, and I bear all the scars of it as the person that started talking about it in 2006. And by the way, in 2006, the fix would have been so small, it would have been easy. It's you just can't ignore problems, and that's what happened here. But we fixed it. And what he failed to do is live up to his end of the bargain, which is to fund it. So now, yes, we are in a crisis. And every year you pay less than you're supposed to of what was agreed upon creates a larger fiscal crisis. So yeah, we absolutely have a crisis, but it's by his making. And he needs to find a way to fund it. Now, the easiest way to fund it is to grow an economy. Now, here's the positive out of the negative. If we're 48th, there's not much further down to go. The sky's the limit, and if we start focusing on this economy in this state and spending in education, public schools, higher education, transportation, what Governor Kane did when he was here, it works. It worked back in the 80s, and it'll work now. It's not an ingenious blueprint, it's common sense. So the lack of investment, we passed a bond act a couple years ago for higher education, and the projects are just trickling out instead of what we had committed to do, which was put all the money on the street at once. That jolts the economy. Build the schools that were bonded for under another administration where that bonding capacity was done. Build the schools, or the crumbling schools like we finally, thank God, got here in Trenton that they're going to fix. So the investments that will pay long-term results are education and transportation. And when you make those investments, you grow your economy.
Well, from your remarks, I would assume that the Commission's roadmap is not a roadmap that you're particularly going to follow at this point in
It's
time.
not a roadmap. Look, the teachers union, I give an enormous amount of credit for. They were looking for solutions. Back in 2006, I was critical of union leadership, and that's what I do for a living. I was critical of union leadership because they weren't stepping up and being part of the solution. They were just assigning blame. Well, the teachers union was taking leadership here, and they did it for the obvious reason. They were 53% funded, now they're 44%. They have to be concerned about their members. But the solution, the understanding was, if they were to find a solution, it was with a guaranteed funding source. And the guaranteed funding source, where the commission came up with it, and they're really good people on that commission, very respected, very honorable people that don't understand government as much, because I was the freeholder director in Gloucester County. If I'm going to get savings on my health care plan, because that's what the governor said, right, everyone's going to go from Platinum Plus, if there's such a thing, to Obama Gold, and we're going to save $1.9 billion. Well, why would any local government entity give a savings that they negotiate in every single contract? I was freeholder director for 13 years. We negotiated health care every time the contract was up. So why would I give that savings to the state? If there is a savings, I'm going to put it back into my budget. So the solution they came up with was not a real solution, and the teachers saw that too. So, the sad thing is the union leadership in the teachers' organization did the right things here. And the governor just basically burned him by not being honorable in the way he should have dealt with him.
One of the recommendations, and from a school board association and for the school boards of education, was that the school districts would then assume the burden of funding the pension moving forward. The way it's proposed, it would be revenue neutral. The savings on one end in terms of the health care would pay for the other end. But that is a concern. Is that something that you have looked at too?
I looked at it also, and my concern is it's just a cost shift to local taxpayers. Because of that local, you can talk about the health care all you want. Is it going to yield the dollars that you need for it to yield? Under their calculation, they needed every local municipality, they needed every county government, they needed every government savings to be put into this pot. So one, it's not enough money. So now I'm going to have a shortfall. And we could adjust the caps, but the taxpayers are going to see the increase in their school taxes. Now you can say, oh, I didn't do it. The school districts did. But that's just passing the buck rather than dealing with the issue.
All right, we're going to switch into some other, and I think I know what your answer is going to be, but in every budget he proposes I was going to say a voucher, but an Opportunity Scholarship Act, and usually that doesn't move forward. Is that?
DOA. Okay.
I kind of assume that one. And then the other one is, it's not in the budget, but it's something that we've been dealing with over the last few years.
But right, when I said that, I said it's short, not to interrupt you, but how do you take more money out of public education when there's not enough money in it?
Okay.
Okay.
The superintendent's salary caps is something that the governor implemented a few years ago. We're starting to look at it a little bit differently now. How do you see that moving forward?
The governor should, the problem with the administration is they never admit when they make a mistake. Look, we all make them. I've made them. You admit to it. He will not admit that that was a bad decision that basically chased out talent, caused a run on the bank with the pensions. We're losing our brain power to other states. No one wants to be the superintendent now. So 25 or 27% of our superintendents are interns, which is not good for the education system in this state. You want someone taking a position as a superintendent because that's going to be their career. And that's the career that they're going to serve in for a long period of time. Nothing against interim superintendents, but they're there for 2 years. So whether they do good, they do bad, it doesn't matter. Does more politics enter into the game when someone doesn't see a long-term stay at hand? One of the biggest concerns I have is the influence of politics getting into the schools. There were certain things I was taught when I first became a local official, which was you do not politicize schools or public safety. I mean, it sounded good. It was great politically. I'm no more than what the governor's making. But at the end of the day, we're losing really good people. And if you're a principal and you maybe aspire to be a superintendent, why are you going to leave? You're giving up tenure and you're going into a job that you're going to be capped at. Right. So it really, for the public relations, it sounded good. People were angry. You get what you pay for.
Right. We're not going to get into it today because it's probably a program in and of itself, but is it something that the Senate may look at later? Because we're in the middle of it now. I would assume that might be something that you might take a look at later in the year when you have the results.
Well, we're on budget break right now.
Right.
Testing was done, so there's going to be data to be looked at, and we're going to take a look at it. But we want to take a look at it in a holistic way. We want to see what came out of the testing, because that's going to give you a clear roadmap. Did we do it well? Did we not do it well? Look, I've spoken to teachers that say that there's an issue with kids with IEPs that needs to be addressed, because that counts against the scores when you have a child that might not be in a position that can learn at the level of others. So, we want to see the data. We want to see how it looks. And then it'll be a lot easier and much more clear where we go. What we should be concerned about is, I think, almost half, if not more, of young people that are going into county colleges need remedial programs.
Right.
So that is telling you we're doing something that's not working. And we're spending a whole lot of money. That's not acceptable to taxpayers in this state. You're spending all the money we are to educate our young people. And we like to say in the United States that we're number one. We're not number one in science in this world. We're not number one in math in this world. We're slipping. So whether it's this test or another test, we have to look at what's the best measurement to ensure that our kids are learning. I think we test too much, personally, but we do need to invest to make sure that when we're teaching, the kids are really learning, that you're not making this investment when you're getting ready to go into college when I already paid for it.
Right. One of the final questions, or the final question is, any advice for board members when they represent their districts to the state level?
Yes, I think that trust your superintendent, but challenge your superintendent. Just don't accept things on face value, and look at ways to try to do things more efficiently and better. Because the hardest thing in government is change, because no one wants to do it. But if you don't change, you don't grow. And that's what I would challenge a board member, a new board member, is as someone that was served 1 year and got one hell of an education in 1 year, the work they do is so important. But you just can't accept things at face value. A superintendent's trying to set things up the way they want to set them up, and they might be perfect and it might be right. But when they know people are paying attention, it makes all the difference in the world.
Well, just a little follow-up on that. Should they communicate issues at the local level, state policies, to their legislators?
Absolutely. When that's how legislation is created, is someone will call up and say, you know, Steve, you know, this doesn't make any sense. Why is it this way? And, you know, a lot of times they're not wrong, and we do legislation and you fix it. So, you know, when you have school board members, and they're the boots on the ground, and they're seeing things not working the way they should work, that's when they should reach out to us, because we're not there. We're counting on them. You know, they were elected. They take on an awesome responsibility on a school district. You know, they don't get paid. I was in 5-hour meetings and school board meetings, and, you know, I didn't think that was possible. You know, getting
we try to advise them to keep the meetings a little shorter.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Well, I'm glad they improved, because I remember getting out of meetings 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and it wasn't the public, it was the board, you know, and what we were dealing with. So I think that, you know, again, there should be, when they see something that needs to be addressed, instead of complaining about it, they should reach out to us. At least they've made the effort.
All right, I'd like to thank you for joining us on
Thanks,
the
sir.
Education Matters. That brings us to the end of this program. And I'd like to thank President Steve Sweeney for joining us.